going on guys, it's Baz here from Gaming Gem, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Coolermaster MM710. This is Coolermaster's first entry into the lightweight gaming mouse scene, so we're going to take a look at all the specs and I'm going to give you guys an overview of my thoughts on the build quality, the clicks and the mouse in general. Coolermaster have been getting a little bit of slack. There's been reports of a lot of mice having wobbly mouse 1 and mouse 2 buttons, as well as just general build quality problems. I've got 3 MM710s that I'm going to be showing you in the video. One is from the first batch, one is from the second batch, and one of them is a white one that Coolermaster have sent me to show the improvements that they've tried to make with the mouse. So I'm going to take you through each of these mice, show you the difference, and we're going to get a look and see if actually the mouse has been improved. Don't forget to check the links in the description where I've got a link to my website where I've got loads of different mice reviews, and also hit the like and subscribe button, and let's jump into the video. Alright, so first things first guys, let's just jump into the specs as usual. So the length of the MM710 is around 116mm long. The grip width is about 60mm long. The weight is around 53-54 grams, so it's a little bit heavier than the Ultralight 2, but it's a little bit lighter than the glorious Model O. And the height is 38mm. Compared to the Final Mouse Ultralight 2, the MM710 is bigger in every dimension. It's longer, it's wider, and it's higher. As for the glorious Model O, the MM710 is smaller, but it is slightly taller, so it kind of sits in between the middle of these two mice, and the hump is much more significant on the MM710 compared to both the Ultralight 2 and the glorious Model O-. The MM710 is using the PMW 3389, so it has DPI levels up to 16,000 and a polling rate of 1000 Hz. Some people like to say that the 3389 sensor is better than the 3360. I beg to differ. I don't think there's that much performance increase with the 3389. I think they're both as good as each other and there's not much difference between the two of them. So let's talk about the shape in a bit more detail, because I think the MM710 is trying to be a little bit of a jack of all trades. So it's got a fairly defined hump for being such a small mouse. The mouse can actually be used by palm, claw or fingertip players because the hump gives enough support for palm grippers. You're going to have pretty small hands though if you want to palm grip this mouse, somewhere below around about 17.5cm by 9cm. For me as a fingertip player, I found that the hump was a little bit too high. Sometimes I do kind of a claw fingertip hybrid and I found that the joint below my pinky was rubbing against the right hand side of the hump, and I did find it a little bit uncomfortable. But that's just me. I've seen a lot of people praising this mouse for its shape, particularly for claw and fingertip players, which I could totally see. It's just not to my personal taste. For me though, a claw or fingertip mouse should have a smaller hump, because the whole point of them is that it allows you to move the mouse back and forth easily without the hump of the mouse hitting the palm of your hand. That's really the whole point of the grip, because it allows you a little bit more flexibility with positioning the mouse using your fingers. I think the higher hump here does kind of impact your maneuverability with the mouse. But the beauty with gaming mice is that everybody has their own personal preference, so this might not be the case for you. As for the side grips, they are fairly straight. They're really not that defined at all. They come very close to the Final Mouse Ultralight 2's side grips with the thinner infinity skins on them. There's a slight flare towards the back of the mouse, and the front of the side grips are fairly straight. They only flare out ever so slightly. Compared to the Model O-, the MM710's side grips are definitely straighter, but they flare out more towards the back of the mouse. This is more of a personal preference thing, but I do quite like them, having used the G Pro Wireless before as my main, which has very straight side grips. I found them to be pretty comfortable, and I like that the holes of the mouse don't go all the way down the sides like they do on the Ultralight 2. Overall, I think the shape of the MM710 is great. I think it's going to be really popular, especially among claw grip and fingertip players. For me, the hump is a little bit too high though. I think that it hits the palm too easily, which does affect the maneuverability of the mouse, something that you don't see as much with the likes of the Model O- and the Final Mouse Ultralight 2. As for the mouse feet, I did find that they scratched my mousepad pretty significantly, particularly if you use a control pad like the GSR. The corners of the feet that you can see here did tend to catch when I started using the mouse straight out the box. After a while they do wear down a little bit and they end up being fine, but it would have been nice if these corners were rounded. The cable is really lightweight and flexible. It's probably one of the best cables that I've tried. It comes very close to the G-Wolf Skull and G-Wolf's Haiti. Better than the Model O's and better than the Ultralight's 2s as well. It's just a really good cable, particularly if you bungee it. It almost feels wireless. So jumping on over to the juicy part, we're going to take a look at whether or not Coolermaster have managed to improve the overall build quality of the MM710 with the newer batches. So first up on the chopping block is the first batch. So this was the first one I received, and you can see here that there is fairly significant mouse 1 and mouse 2 wobble. Both of these buttons had fairly significant post travel and creaking. You can also see how badly the left hand side of the button is bending. From another angle, you can see how much the mouse 1 and mouse 2 are actually rocking. This happens if you press the end of the mouse buttons. You can see that because the mouse is separate from the shell, it's actually rocking back and forth. And I think this is part of the reason why there's such bad creaking and post travel. The scroll wheel on this copy was solid, and I really liked the individual steps and the general weighting of the scroll wheel. Usually I don't really like this test, but it is quite easy to activate the side buttons from squeezing the side of the shell. I never had this happen to me in game, but it is worryingly easy to do this. Alright, so the second batch, is it any better? Well, the mouse 1 and mouse 2 are significantly better on this copy than they were on the first batch. You can see here. As for the bending, creaking and post travel, you can see here that it is definitely improved on the second batch here. There's significantly less post travel and there is almost zero creaking whatsoever. As for the sidewalls, it's the same in the second batch as it was with the first batch. You can definitely press the side buttons really easy by just pressing the sidewalls. Now, I thought I was onto a winner with this copy, but unfortunately the scroll wheel is really bad on this copy. You can hear the difference in the scrolling up and down, and also when I shake it, the rattling. Thanks to Coolermaster for sending out the white MM710, but just be aware that this doesn't affect my review in any way. So out of the 3 copies I have, the white version does have the least amount of wobble. That might just be based on luck out of the copy I received though. As for the bending, creaking and post travel, the white version definitely had the best clicks out of the 3 copies, and you can see here how much the bending has reduced compared to the first copy. Compared to the first copy, the bending of the mouse 1 and mouse 2 has been improved significantly. You can see the back of the mouse 1 and mouse 2 buttons here are barely bending at all, which is really good to see, so they've definitely improved this. The side buttons can still be activated by squeezing the side walls. You do have to do this fairly hard, and it never happened to me in game, but it is something to be aware of. The scroll wheel on this copy is decent. It's pretty much the same as the first batch's copy. It feels nice, the weighting is the same, everything's the same. However, there is still some rattling, and I had rattling on every single copy. It didn't affect my gameplay at all, and the rattling is something that I've noticed on the Ultralight 2 and the Glorious Model O as well, so I wouldn't be too worried about it. The mouse still functions fine, but there are some worries there around the build quality. The MM710 does have its own software from Coolermaster, and it's pretty good. It does exactly what you want and nothing more. So you've got your usual button assignments here. You've got inside performance tab, you have the DPI levels that you can customize, you have the polling rate, obviously recommend it to keep it at 1000 Hertz. You have angle snapping, which you can turn off and on, recommend turning that off. You've got your lift-off distance, personal preference, your tunability and your operating system sensitivity. I suggest just leaving these as default. And you have things like your double click speed, which you can customize, and your button respawn time as well. You can also come in here and you can tune the mouse depending on the surface that you are using. There's also the macros tab as well, so you can come in here and create macros for the mouse, and you've got individual profiles over here that you can save specific macros to and specific DPI values, etc. So overall the software is great, does exactly what you want, and there's no extra bloatware or overhead. So overall, my thoughts on the MM710. I think Coolermaster have made a good mouse here, but I think there are some concerns around quality control. If you can manage to find a good copy, maybe with some of the newer batches, then I think for some people you're going to love this mouse. There are some concerns around the mouse button wobble, and it would be nice to have the mouse feet rounded. Judging by the newer batches, it definitely looks like Coolermaster have made some small improvements. The shape itself is going to be really popular. I think the cable is brilliant, probably one of the best cables at the moment. It's extremely lightweight and it's a good alternative to the Ultralight 2 if you found that to be a little bit too small. If Coolermaster can maybe tighten up some of the quality control problems, then it's definitely going to be a mouse that you have to try. Alright, that's it from me folks, thanks for watching. Don't forget to check the links in the description if you're interested in picking one up, or if you want to head over to my website where I've got a whole range of different mouse reviews. I've got the G-Wolf's Heyday coming up next. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next one.